Hello again,
Blog
and welcome
Talk
to
Radio.
Tuesday Talk with Key West Lou. I am your host, Louis Patrone. Okay, my friends, it's been another crazy week, worldwide, nationwide, politician-wide, corporation-wide, more defecation on the poor. Everything's been going on. We're going to have an interesting show this evening. If you wish to join me, make your own comment, challenge something I say, agree with me, disagree, please call me. The number is 646-478-5731. I repeat, 646-478-5731. The number is on your screen. The world is upside down. I repeat, the world is upside down. I say that to you because it really is, and it happens to be the title of a book, a new book, which I have prepared and which will be published sometime this month. It's The World Upside Down, Essays by Key West Lou. That's me, Louis Patrone. It will be available on Amazon.com. And what it is a series of essays about things I talk about on this show, things I've talked about on my show 5 years ago, things I've talked on my show 3 years ago. I've written over 300 essays that I stored on the computer. I've taken about 30 out and put them into book form. I believe you will find them interesting. Okay, let's go to work. I am an American. I am proud to be an American. Most of you listening to me are Americans, and you are proud to be Americans. And those of you who are not from the United States, I'm sure you're proud to be a citizen of whatever country you are from. Some things bother me and gall me, and this is a perfect example of one of those things. Remember Lexington and Concord, 1775, the start of the revolution, the shot heard around the world. Well, the colonists, the revolutionary soldier, our soldiers, they had their own flag. And the flag at the time had 13 stripes, red and white, and it had a snake on it, and printed on the bottom was, "Don't tread on me." That was the snake that our colonists used in buying us and getting us our freedom and fighting in that terrible Revolutionary War. That is a flag that has been with our Marines and our Navy since day one, in effect, over 230 years in one fashion or another. It happens that in present day, one of the places you find that flag with the snake, "Don't tread on me," is on a Navy SEALs jacket. You know, that special group in the United States Navy who can do all kinds of things. They wear special jackets, and on their shoulder there's a patch. It says, it's the flag, and says, "Don't tread on me." It's on their right shoulder. Well, this past week, the Navy Department, somebody in there, I don't know who, issued a directive. They had to remove the patch. They had to remove the patch, and they had to replace it with another flag, which would be 50 white stars, the 50 white stars representing the 50 states of the Union, on a blue field. Far different from the snake and "Don't tread on me" that has been part of our history for over 230 years. Why? Why all of a sudden, "Don't tread on me, don't fly anymore"? It's the only way to put it. Well, we were advised that the flag, 13 stripes, red and white, with the snake and "Don't tread on me," is a symbol associated with radical groups. A symbol associated with radical groups. Who the hell could they be talking about? The only radical group, and it depends how you view them, whether they're radical or not, that I know of, that uses the "Don't Tread on Me" flag as their flag is the Republican Tea Party. You got it, folks, the Republican Tea Party. So apparently our present-day government doesn't want to have a conflict with the Tea Party on this issue and do not want people to associate the military, the Navy, with the Tea Party. So they told the boys, no more On your Navy SEALs jacket, can you wear the patch of the Don't Tread on Me flag? I don't understand this. We had it first. Back in 1775, the Tea Party hasn't been in existence for more than 5 years. Why should they be favored now on this issue? Because we don't want to antagonize the Tea Party? Because we don't want to upset the Tea Party? Is our government going to react the same way that the other Republicans in the House of Representatives and Speaker Boehner, John Boehner, have reacted to keep those 30 or 40 Tea Party members happy, keep them quiet, because they're rabble-rousers. So we got to go along with them. We got to give in to them. I say, suck it up, United States government. This is not the way to treat me or the rest of the citizens in this country or our boys in the Navy by removing that Don't Tread on Me flag from their jacket, a symbol that has been theirs since 1775. Now, there's another interesting factor that goes with this whole thing. You remember 9/11? Well, immediately after 9/11, the Navy Department says, from this day forward, on every United States naval vessel, we're going to let you fly the Navy Jack. The flag is called the Navy Jack, by the way, also. Don't Tread on Me, it's called the Navy Jack. And we want it flown. It must be flown on the front of every ship, and I quote, for the duration of the global war on terrorism. For the duration of the global war on terrorism. Well, no one's told me the war on terrorism is over. I think it's an insult not only to 1775 and the Revolutionary War. I think it's an insult to those Navy SEALs, and I think it's an insult to those who died on 9/11. Why are we letting a small group of people in this country who are radical? Lewis says they're radical. That doesn't make them radical. It's a free country. Everybody can think what they want. But I think these people are too disruptive, and they really don't have the best interests of our country at heart. How can our government go along with them and do this? Bad, wrong. Okay, moving on. Let's see. Poverty. Poverty is exploding in this country. I talked about it last week. I'm not going to talk about it as much this week, but we must talk about poverty. No one faces up to the fact and speaks openly about it enough. Poverty. I'm talking about the 1% and the 99%. Let me give you some examples of poverty right now. Did you know that 1 out of every 5 households is on food stamps? 1 out of every 5 households in the United States on food stamps. We're told we are the wealthiest nation in the world. Wealthiest nation in the world. If we are the wealthiest nation in the world, tell me why 1 out of 4 children in the United States today is enrolled in the food stamp program. Not good. Now, we have a Republican conservative governor in the state of Ohio, John Kasich. He was a congressman for many years, and I think he's a sharp guy. He's a smart guy. He's a conservative. He's not. I don't think he goes as far as the Tea Party people, but damn close. He got his butt shot down a couple of times after he became governor when he put in some radical programs, Tea Party programs, and then people had a vote and the courts worked against him. So now he's learned his lesson. That's a terrible way to say it. And he's reverted to being a good governmental leader and official. Well, he said last week, and this really struck at me because I respect this guy and I admire him, and I think he's presidential timber in about 10 or 15 years. He's young yet. He said we're getting into a war on poverty in this country. War on poverty. He said it. He's a Republican. He's a conservative. We honestly are. We're not getting into it, though. We are into it. And when you have people who are impoverished, you have so many people, was it 45, 47 million people in this country on food stamps. And when you cut the food stamps back, as they did last week because of some law that was passed in 2009, and when you're trying to reduce by, what is it, $40 billion over the next 10 years, stamps. When you want to cut Social Security, you're threatening to cut Medicare. You don't want Obamacare. You don't care about the sick. You don't care about the elderly. You don't care about the poor. People get desperate, and there are desperate people in this country. And remember the quotation we have all read several times over the course of our lifetime: desperate people do desperate things. Desperate people do desperate things. Now, I'm not saying we're going to have a revolution tomorrow. I'm not saying we're going to have one next year. But I'm saying the haves are pushing the have-nots too far, too fast, and putting them up against the wall, putting them in a corner, don't care about them. And when you do this to a people and you start taking food off the table, educations away from their children, they are going to react at some point. And it's what happened in Egypt and what's happened in Cyprus, what's happened in Turkey, what's happened in other countries where people are in the streets could happen here. Would it result in a modification or change in government? I don't know. I hope none of this ever happens. But when you defecate on people, they got to come back at you. It's a question of survival. So now let's get into some of the things that have been occurring as a result of this increased poverty we've seen in the last several years. I got a smile on my face before I even get into this with you. You are going to find this hard to believe. We're going to talk about cattle rustling. Remember the Westerns? Cattle rustling, and we're going to talk about truck hijacking. Both cattle rustling and truck hijacking are on the rise in the United States. Remember, the people who are desperate will do desperate things. In Texas, now I'm talking about cattle rustling, Texas, thieves get up to, anyone who steals a steer, a cow, whatever you want to call them, a cattle, those cattle are worth up to $15 a head. Up to $15 a head. Each cow, cattle, whatever, steer, whatever it is. That's big money. And so you understand the impact on cattle rustling, which is also going on in Oklahoma, by the way, big time. Cattle rustling, stealing of cattle, is up 40% this year from last year, a 40% jump this year from last year. Now, let's go to truck hijackings. I'm talking about the cargo in a tractor trailer. You know what a tractor trailer is. You have two vehicles in effect. You have the tractor up front, which is the cab, the driver's in, it's got the motor, and it pulls the big trailer in the back in which they put whatever they want, food, beverages, furniture, whatever they're carrying across country. And the two come together. Well, there are crooks in this country that are hijacking trucks to the tune this year of $216 billion alone. $216 billion so far this year. And here's how these crooks work. They pose as truck drivers. They have their own tractor, that cab up front. They pull into a dock of a terminal where these terminals, trailers are sitting there at the dock, all filled up with the product to be picked up. Or at the plant where these products come out, whether it's food, furniture, machine parts, it's all there. It's all there. But we're talking about generally food and beverages that are being stolen right now. The tractors are sitting at a dock. These guys drive up in their tractors. They have some way of showing people, this is my load, and it must be very easy to pick up a load because they hook up the tractor to the trailer and they drive away. That's simple. And they're pulling away with they know what they're going after. Walnuts, fancy cheeses, ribeye steaks, king crab. Now, this is new. Cattle rustling and hijacking of cargo. And why is this happening? Very simply. If you steal something and sell it, you have no overhead, or you have very, very little overhead. It cost you nothing. You didn't make it. You didn't raise the cows. You didn't feed them. You didn't care for them. You didn't make the foodstuffs. You didn't make the beverages. You didn't pay people to do it. It cost you nothing. You stole it. No overhead. It's terrific. So if you can sell that product, whether it's beef or it's walnuts, cheese, ribeye steaks, or king crab, you can sell that stuff at a much cheaper price than a supermarket can and still make a hell of a profit, and the consumer's happy because they're buying something for maybe 30 cents on the dollar. That's why. And cattle rustling and truck hijacking is up because of the increased poverty in this country. People just don't face up to it yet. Now, let me tell you about something else that's being stolen. And I don't think this is because of poverty, though. It's just a new way of making money. Because people who are crooks are ingenious. It's ingenuity. I'm impressed with this one. Do you know Tide, the detergent? Tide, the detergent. Well, I'm laughing again. You're not going to believe this. This past year, this is a big item for thievery. People in supermarkets and stores are stealing boxes of Tide off the shelves. Some stores to the tune of $10,000 to $15,000 per month. $10,000 to $15,000 per month. Why? What are they going to do with all that Tide? Nobody's got that much dirty clothes. What they use it for is this. Tide this past year has become a currency in the drug trade. Tide has become a currency in the drug trade. And it's in the marijuana and crack cocaine trade. And if you want to buy marijuana or crack cocaine, you don't use dollars. You use boxes of Tide. And this is the national currency now, folks. Trust me. It's interesting, isn't it? Now, what does the drug dealer do with all this Tide? He's got warehouses full of Tide. I have a question about this. What, again, do the dealers do with it? Well, they've got to sell it someplace. And I'd like to know who they're selling the Tide to. Supermarket chains in this country? I don't know. Supermarket chains in Asia or Europe? I don't know. But wherever they sell those boxes of Tide, they're getting money back for them. Not the full value of the box of Tide, but it was stolen, so what difference does it make? And they've already made their cut on the marijuana and crack cocaine, I'm sure. But they sell it, and the money they get back, I think it's a form of money laundering. That's the conclusion I come to. This is a way to money launder, and because once you sell it to the supermarket, they pay you back. I guess the tracing disappears. Tide thefts are up, my friends. I'm talking about poverty, and I'm going to get off this kick in a minute, but I got to talk about poverty because it's becoming bigger and we're not facing up to this, I'm afraid, and I fear for my country. Corporations are getting bigger in the United States. Corporations are getting bigger worldwide, but I'm going to stay in the United States. Do you know that there are 10 corporations in the United States, mega corporations, big ones, that control everything? You heard the word is everything. We buy. Everything we buy is controlled by them, and they buy from each other. Each of these 10 corporations is loaded with other corporations, all famous names you know. We only got 10 big corporations left in the world. There used to be many more years ago. We're down to 10 big corporations who control what you eat, what you buy, everything in your life. Let's go to the media. Television stations, newspapers, radio stations. Do you know that only 6 corporations control the media today? There were 50 such corporations in 1983. Today, 6 huge, large corporations control the media. Let's not stop there. Let's talk about banks. I mean, it gets worse. This is scary. We used to have 37 big banks. I don't know what a big bank is, but it's a big, big bank. We're down to now 4 in this country. From 37 several years ago, we're down to 4. They're J.P. Morgan Chase, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, Citigroup. And these 4 banks are the same ones who gave us The mortgage foreclosure debacle which occurred, they made the bad loans knowingly because they wanted to invest the money and trade it. Everybody has a lot of mortgages they're selling. And in the end, the country got destroyed with this recession, and a lot of people have lost their homes, their jobs, and so forth. Well, those four big boys were major contributors to the problem, and those four boys are the big banks in this country today. There are other banks. There used to be 20 years ago, as there was 37 banks, now 4 from 20 years ago. There used to be 12,500 banks in the United States 12 years ago. Now we're down to 8,000, the smaller ones. Now, that puts everything in this country in the hands of a few corporations. What I'm talking about here, my dear friends, 10 big corporations for food and everything else. The media, 6. That brings us to 16 corporations. Banks, 4 major corporations. 20 corporations control our lives. Simple, isn't it? What bothers me is this. When we were going, the banks were going to fail. This is before the mortgage foreclosures. The banks were going to fail. We had to bail them out with TARP monies. And we were told this by our government, especially Attorney General Holder. He said, you remember these words, the banks were too big to fail. Because if any big bank failed, it would affect the economy all over the world. We could have a worldwide recession. So even though they were the people who got us in trouble, we had to help them out of their trouble so we didn't have this major recession, which came anyhow. Then later on, several months later, when it became obvious all the bad things these banks were doing with these mortgages, criminal things, Attorney General Holder said, the banks, they're too big to prosecute. First, they're too big to fail, then they're too big to prosecute. Let me give you an example. It was reported on yesterday. Johnson & Johnson, major medical company, Band-Aids and all that sort of stuff. They were charged civilly and criminally several years ago because they were marketing drugs for unauthorized use. What am I talking about? They were marketing drugs that they said did something and it did with the drug. For congestive heart failure, they had a drug that did nothing for congestive heart failure. And for some kind of, they had an antipsychotic drug that just didn't help the psychotic person. And they made billions of dollars all this. They also, Johnson & Johnson was charged with paying kickbacks to doctors and nursing homes, kickbacks to peddle their products, sign prescriptions for these products and so forth, push Johnson & Johnson's products. Well, Attorney General Holder, he's always announcing these things. This guy's got to learn, though. He's an honest man, but he doesn't understand. You can't suck up to the banks. You got to bring some of them down and some of these major corporations down, or they will not learn. They entered into a settlement. The United States government entered into a settlement with Johnson & Johnson for $2 billion, and for that $2 billion, dropped all civil and criminal charges and complaints. No one's going to be tried. No one goes to jail, and Johnson & Johnson don't have to be afraid they're going to pay any more. Well, $2 billion may sound like a lot of money, but it is a drop in the bucket for a corporation as large as Johnson & Johnson. Because on one of these drugs alone, and they were selling them for 3 to 5 years, in 1 month, their net profit was $3.2 billion. 1 month. And they settled this whole case for $2 billion. See, it's easy for a big company to spend billions of dollars to escape legal responsibility. They've made so much money. Again, I phrase it this way, the $2 billion is a drop in the bucket. I'm concerned. We are owned now by corporate America. Our political leaders, some of them are owned, more than are influenced by, which is just as bad a term probably, by corporate America. Is it good or bad? I think it's bad. Maybe you think it's good. I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there. I'm sharing it with you. You draw your own conclusion. Now, Let's go to the House of Representatives. We all love the House of Representatives. They gave us the shutdown recently, the government shutdown. This is John Boehner's group. He's got 30 or 40 Tea Party people that he sucks up to. Nothing got done. They shut down the government. Cost us $24 billion. I wrote a column for Conch Life that'll be published this Thursday. It's the local newspaper in the Keys. And I titled it, "You House of Representatives Works Too Hard." The United States House of Representatives works too hard. My first sentence in the column, though, was "a joke!" exclamation point. I was making a funny. I was being facetious, okay? These guys don't work. I was watching television. This is what motivated the article last week. And there's John Boehner and Eric Cantor, the majority leader, and a bunch of Republican congressmen going home. It was a Thursday. And the news article said that they won't be back for about 2 weeks, and they're only going to work 8 days in December. And I'm saying to myself, my God, we got out of the shutdown problem and the debt ceiling problem by adjourning these things to December 15th and I think the first week in January. Where the hell are these guys going to be? They should be here in Washington working on this problem. There's supposed to be budget committees working on these problems, working on the numbers. There's supposed to be bipartisanship this time. These guys are going home. So I looked into this. I said, this is interesting. How much do these guys really work? Turns out, listen to what Lewis is going to say. You're not going to believe this. In the year 2013, this year, they will have worked a total of 126 days. Where they don't work, they're not in Washington. They're back home or they're on a trip for somebody. 126 days. Cantor, as majority leader last Thursday, issued the work schedule for the House of Representatives for next year. They're working 10 or 12 days less next year. They're only working 113 days. I don't know how they can do this. I think it shows contempt for the American people, and I want to say the Senate works much longer. We never had this before. The short working schedule began in 2010 with the Tea Party members who came into Congress. Look it up, folks. You'll see it. I'm not making this stuff up. So here's what I basically say. If they're going to work part-time, they should be paid part-time. They make $174,000 a year. If we pay them for every day they work, they'll make about $1,500 a day, and that's all they should get, which is about $60,000 a year. You don't work, you don't get paid, you're no different than anybody else, all right? You know what that would save us? We're talking about saving money. Forget about cutting my Social Security and Medicare and yours. We would save $50 million a year, roughly, if we paid these people in the House of Representatives to work the days they work. The average American worker works 2,000 hours a year. He or she's average pay is $29,000 a year, $111 a day, not $1,500 a day, roughly 13 or 14% the members of the House of Representatives make than the people who put them in office and the people they are working for. We're getting screwed. Excuse the way I put it. Absolutely no question. We are getting screwed. And let me go quickly. I'm coming to the end of the show. Congressional pensions. There's 527 former congressmen retired. They retire between $41,000 and $70,000 a year. The average retirement pension for a congressman is $50,000 a year. Whereas the average Social Security check in this country is $1,160 a month, $14,000 a year. This is wrong. We put them there. We pay them with our taxpayer dollars. They got a great medical program. It ain't like yours and mine, and they don't pay that much for it. They got all these fancy perks. They get their butts kissed because they are our leaders, our national leaders. They get all kinds of trips through corporate America all over the world. They want for nothing. And they defecate on the people who they owe something to, the people who voted them in, the taxpayers of this country. That's my show for this week. I thank you for joining me. I hope you enjoyed. And if you did, please come back next week and tell your friends to listen in also. Thank you, and good night.